So there's been plenty of hype and heat surrounding new Macs lately. We just saw a leak in Xcode hinting to a new iMac, the 21.5-inch base iMac with the 512 and 1TB SSD options just got discontinued, and the iMac Pro also got discontinued. So yeah, there's plenty to talk about, and I'm also going to be focusing a bit on MacBooks, because we've been hearing about those as well. And there's just been plenty of rumors and stuff about them either coming next month, so April, or later in the year like October or at WWDC, and we'll go over all of this in the video. Before we get on with it, please do leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out, and I have lots of fun making these videos, and I put quite a bit of effort into it. So yeah, let's just get right in with the video. So the first thing that I think we can see from these new Macs is more or better ports, because really, even though Apple has been using USB-C only on their MacBook Pros for the past 5 years and on the MacBook Air for 2.5 years at this point, the industry still hasn't really caught on. Still, to this day, there are so many accessories that still use USB-A or HDMI, and not everything has completely shifted over to USB-C yet. And one thing that I don't think USB-C can replace at all, I mean, yes, it can replace USB-A, yes, it can replace HDMI, but it can't replace an SD card slot, and I'd love to see one come back. But with the chance that we are going to be sticking to USB-C, which I really hope does not happen, I think that we could hopefully see a couple more, like maybe a 6-port option on the 16-inch MacBook Pro, and then the 4-port becoming standard all across the 13-inch MacBook Pros, and then obviously the Air with the 2 ports. So we've also been hearing about MagSafe coming back to Mac. So if you don't know what MagSafe is, it's basically this proprietary connector that Apple had on their MacBooks up until I think it was 2015, and it was basically a safety feature. So let's say my cord is like on the ground or something, and somebody trips over it, rather than your beautiful expensive machine coming tumbling to the ground and shattering into a billion pieces, it's just the cord that just comes and snaps off. And this is what Surface Connect is basically. It's just a small magnetic connection, which is really convenient. Also, MagSafe does open up another USB-C port. Alright, but let's get to the real cream here. The real cream? Let's just get to the point. Let's talk about the chip. So M1X, M1T, whatever they're gonna call it. I don't know if it's gonna be X because that's what it was on the mobile chip, so T, who knows. But anyways, this is supposed to be faster than the already fast M1. So while the M1 was really good in the CPU department, it was relatively weak in terms of the GPU. And I think that really to get some real professionals to ditch their Intel MacBook Pros for these ARM MacBook Pros, they really need to improve in that GPU department, because that's one of the main reasons that people are still hanging on to their Intel MacBook Pros. Now I think that we can see the M1X debut on the 13-inch MacBook Pro, and then maybe later in the year the 16-inch MacBook Pro could get the ARM update and then come with the M2 chip, but that's probably going to be like October or November. Now as for the iMacs, I don't know what it's going to come with, because the iMac Pro, I don't think that we're going to be seeing a high-end iMac that will replace that anytime soon, because, I mean, that thing was basically obsolete with the iMac upgrade that we got last August, I think it was, for the 27-inch iMac and the Mac Pro coming out. There was just really no point of that iMac Pro anymore. But what could happen is that we might actually end up seeing the 27-inch iMac, or whatever it's going to go to, and that might just get rebranded as the iMac Pro, whereas the 21.5-inch iMac, or it's rumored bump to 24 inches, would just be called the iMac. Vadim from MaxTech actually mentioned this in his video, and I completely agree with him, because it is a bit confusing and it is a bit of a mouthful to say, oh yeah, I have the 21.5-inch iMac, and just calling it iMac and iMac Pro, it's just so much easier, especially because the iMac Pro basically serves no purpose now, and once the 27-inch iMac, or whatever it's going to be, does get an ARM update, it will be ridiculously fast. Also, because we are going to be seeing 2 variants, apparently, of the Mac Pro, like a huge tower one again, and then like a smaller ARM Mac Pro, like a Mac Pro Mini or something. And with all of these, so that's like, what, 4 or 5 Macs now in the entire Mac line, I don't think there's even space to squeeze in another Mac Pro that's like a better version of the 32-inch when you could just spec up the 32-inch iMac. But the other big thing that we're supposed to be seeing from these new Macs is a redesign, especially for the iMacs. The MacBooks have okay bezels, I guess. Yeah, we could see thinner bezels on the MacBook Air and the smaller MacBook Pro, but the iMacs that is an entirely different story. They've been using the same design for like the past decade at this point. It's just getting redundant, it's getting annoying to have this absolute chunk of a bezel on the top and an even chunkier bezel on the bottom. We need to move on from this. So, the redesign is supposed to be featuring much slimmer bezels, uniform bezels all around on the iMac. So, just like on the iPad Air, uniform bezel like on the iPad Pro, hopefully we can see this come to iMacs. I desperately want it. Along with the ARM redesign, that would be like a match made in heaven. And along with this rumored redesign is also a rumored screen upgrade. So right now the iMac sizes are 21.5 inches and 27 inches, which is supposed to go to 24 inches and 32 inches. Now, I don't know how this will work, so I guess it would work if we are just reducing the bezels within the same body, because these are really, really chunky bezels, and I think that if we do eliminate them into uniform bezels, we can get a 24-inch display. And onto the mobile side, we are supposed to be seeing the MacBook Pros just shift to the iPad design language. So, I mean, I hope that this does become uniform as a thing. The Apple Watch, I think, is also supposed to be getting a square design. So, yeah, with that, iPhones with squared off edges, iPads with squared off edges, MacBooks with squared off edges, and the iMacs with squared off edges would just be like the epitome, the pinnacle of uniformity in Apple's entire line, and I do really hope that this happens. Squared off edges would look really cool on MacBooks. I know that it would definitely look really, really nice on iMacs. I don't know how it translates practically in real world use on MacBooks, because if you're typing like this, then the squared edge here might start to dig into your wrist and hurt a bit. So I don't know if Apple's going to bring it onto the MacBooks, but if it's on the iMacs, I think that it would really fit on the iMacs. And especially with what we've seen with the Pro Display XDR, that thing has squared off edges, so I think it will definitely work on an iMac. And I also want to see some biometrics come to the iMac. So I don't know if we're going to be seeing them this year. I think there have been a couple rumors about getting the iMacs with biometrics next year and then getting just the redesign this year. But I really do hope that all of it comes this year, because one of the main gripes that I have about iMacs in general is just no biometrics. You have to enter your passcode in every time. There's no convenient Face ID or anything like that. So I think that it's really time that we do see something like Face ID come to the iMacs. I don't know if this is going to bump up the base price, because I think that the base 21.5-inch iMac starts at $999 right now, and so this might, I guess, bump it to $10.99 or $11.99. But if we do get Touch ID or something, I do hope that it gets like integrated into like a new Magic Keyboard, because if it's like on the side of the monitor, like nobody wants to do this so that they can unlock their Mac. That's kind of counterintuitive. Now, as for the MacBooks, I'm not so concerned about getting Face ID there, because we've already got Apple Watch unlock. But then again, it's a bit inconvenient for people to have their watches on while they're typing. It would be nice to get Face ID on Mac, because then you can replicate that Windows Hello experience, just open up the lid and boom, you're already logged in. Especially for people who don't have an Apple Watch, I think that this can be really convenient. Now, the most confusing and conflicting thing about all these new Macs in general is just when they will release. So yeah, it's all really confusing and it's hard to get your head around this, but here's what I think. So originally I thought that we would be seeing new MacBooks come in the spring, and Apple just updating their entire mobile line before fully shifting their focus onto the desktop line. Because I know we already got the Mac Mini and that's a desktop, but then again, that was the cheapest desktop Mac and kind of made sense for Apple to update it. Yeah, I originally thought that, at WWDC, we'll be seeing new iMacs with the redesign or something, and that's when Apple's just focusing on the iMacs mainly, which would come out sometime in the summer, or maybe they won't get announced at WWDC and we'll just see new iMacs in the fall. But especially with the double surprise that we just got with the 21.5-inch base iMac and the iMac Pro, I think that we might actually be seeing the iMacs in spring. I don't know how long Apple can continue to sell the crappy 21.5-inch iMac anymore, and I think that it definitely needs an upgrade. Even if it's just coming with an M1 this spring, I think that that will definitely be the first one to get upgraded. I mean, that's what they did with the MacBooks and the Mac Mini. They've been doing the entry-level options with ARM first, and then slowly moving their way up the ranks to replace the professional high-end desktops and stuff when the technology gets ready to take over what x86 has been doing there all this time. And I think that if we do see the new iMac come out this spring and absolutely nothing about the new MacBook Pros, then maybe we can see the MacBook Pros get an announcement at WWDC, possibly come out in the summer. And if they don't get announced at WWDC, then we could probably just see the new MacBooks get an entire redesign in October and November and then come out then. Also, a reason that all of this may have been pushed back is mini LED, because obviously with Corona and all, the supply chain has had many issues getting all this mini LED ready for Apple. Much like the iPad Pro, I think this might have been the reason that the MacBooks have been delayed. If you don't know what mini LED is, it's basically just combining the reliability of LCD and all the color and contrast benefits of OLED and merging them into one display technology. I think that many people will benefit from mini LED on these new MacBooks and iMacs. MacBooks have had pretty good displays for quite a while now. It's really color accurate, good brightness, P3 color gamut, so they've been really good, and I think that mini LED will just take them to the next level. Alright, so that's it for me rambling on about these new M1X or M2 whatever iMacs. I do hope that we do see the iMacs come out in spring and then, you know, maybe just get the full redesign for the MacBooks at the end of the year. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please do leave a like and subscribe if you did enjoy this video. And yeah, that's it for me.